And welcome back to the Big Boys with your man, Uncle Neely. And of course, we cannot do this without Coach Carl Reed from 24/7 Sports. Brother Reed, how you been making it?
Man, I've been doing real good, man. Big win this past Saturday, so everybody's feeling good.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the landscape of that win, once again, not only solidifying yourself firmly in second place in the Big 12, but with the loss on the other side and what's happening in the conference, you could easily win out and get to the number one seed.
Yeah, you've positioned yourself to control your own destiny. So if you went out, you know you're going to Dallas and you're probably going in as the number one seed. So when you think about where the team is now versus where we were a year ago, it's been really special to see it all unfold.
It absolutely has been. One of the things we often talk about is the moving goalpost when it comes to the success of Coach Prime, in this program. Utah came into Folsom Field the number one defense in the conference and offensively had 42 points scored on them.
Yeah, and now when you beat them, everybody says, well, Utah wasn't any good anyway. Kyle Whittingham is a superior coach, and he's one of the very best defensive coaches in all of college football and has been for a long time. For guys who follow the game a long time, he was the defensive coordinator at Utah when Urban Meyer was the head coach, and then when Urban left, he's got the job. He's been the head coach ever since. But they've always been physical. They've always had a great scheme. But what you see is just the maturation of the Colorado offense, led by Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter, of course, but guys like Webster, guys, all kind of other receivers, stepping in, making big time plays, offensive line playing better. They're playing as a unit. And Pat Shermer's got to give a lot of credit also for his play calling and the way he has the offense running real smooth.
And Utah's head coach, when his post-game press conference, when it was time for that, he stated without hesitation that Colorado was the best team that he had faced all year long from top to bottom, coaching staff and the players. And I thought that was a big testament to have the opposing coach, with everyone he's played this year, come out and say that.
Well, you're not just talking about the opposing coach. He's a Hall of Famer. And he's a guy that's been a part of a lot of winning and has won a lot of football games. And his team, over the course of his career, has been able to impose their will on other teams. They were able to do that to Colorado a year ago. So now when you look at it, I mean, you getting kudos and you getting respected. It gets to the point, we talk about the moving goalposts. You need new haters because the old ones are all starting to like you.
Yeah, it's amazing how many haters can become fans. So you're exactly right. Like they say, you ain't popping if you got haters. So I guess we got to get a little more popping going on. Speaking of popping, we clearly got to get the offense popping in the first quarter. As you said, hats off to Pat Sherman, what he's been able to do with this offense, hanging up 42 points on the number one defense in your conference. You can't look past that. We did have a better first quarter in this game compared to previous games, but there was an intensified effort for that. What do you, Coach Reed, attribute the slow start of the Colorado offense, even though by the end of the game it's clearly rolling?
You have to get Shador completions early on. He works better when you get him a short pass early. And so there's been a point of emphasis. When I talked to Coach Prime on Sunday, he told me the point of emphasis last week was for the team to get off to a fast start. And he kept telling the team, we're going to be up 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, 14-0. They ended the first quarter up 14-3, but he put a huge emphasis on a fast start. And anything that we know that Coach Prime says, this is our focus this week, they tend to come out and perform that way.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a refocus this week as well. Not only that, but the running game.
You know what? When you start talking about playing championship football in November, you're going to be able to have to run the ball to move the chains to win championship level football games. It gets cold outside. You can start to see your breath now, especially up in those mountains. When it gets chilly, that snow and that dew is on the ground. And that's when championship football is played, and your running backs are going to have to get real active during that time. And that's why that transfer portal class of offensive linemen and Jordan Seaton coming out of high school, that's why those guys was recruited for a moment such as this.
Absolutely. David Kelly, the general manager of this team, has stood up in front of us on many occasions, at least in this time of the year, many occasions, and said, this is why you came here. You came here to play championship football. You came here to play in games that absolutely matter.
It's much more exciting for a player and for a coach to be playing meaningful football in November. When you got a chance to go in and win your conference and go to the college football playoffs, you having different conversations than if the season is already over. There's guys right now all over the country jumping in the transfer portal or knowing that they're about to jump in the portal because they don't have the ability to play into December. And Colorado has that opportunity right now, and they have to seize the moment.
You're exactly right, Colin. Our next trip, we're taking on the road. We go up to Kansas, not playing in Lawrence, but playing in Kansas City in Arrowhead Stadium, NFL Stadium. Do you think that venue will have any impact on either team?
I don't think the venue will have an impact. When you think about Colorado, everywhere they go, the game sells out. So they've played in some intense environments, and they've been in environments where everybody's coming because they want them to lose. So they've been in hostile environments. Kansas has a really good football coach, Lance Leipold. He won. He's been a winner everywhere he's went. He won 7 Division III national championships. Went to Buffalo, won the MAC conference. Has done very well at Kansas. They have 42 seniors led by running back Devin Neal. They have a really good quarterback in Jalen Daniels. So they are a threat. Very well coached football team. This is going to be a good challenge on the road. But if you're a championship team, these are the games you have to win.
I absolutely agree that it's going to be a challenge. In fact, I think we're going to be facing the most intense, diverse defense we've faced all year. Also going to have a dual threat quarterback back there. He likes to run. Kansas was his only D1 offer, so he plays with a sort of chip on his shoulder, to prove that he belongs, at this level. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. One of the things I'm noticing about Kansas, they had some early woes, but they've kind of righted that ship, and they've beat BYU and Iowa State, and now we come to town to play them. They're riding high. They got the chip on their shoulder. They want to get to a bowl game, and they've beaten 2 of the top teams in this conference back to back.
Man, I'm never surprised when Kansas wins because I'm so familiar with the coach. He's a guy that I know for a long time. But right now, what Kansas is best at is running the football, and Colorado has been elite at stopping the run. Coach Rob Livingston has that defense doing all run fits and running to the ball. They have been exceptional against the run this season. And so you're talking about strength against strength. And right now, I like what the Buffaloes are bringing defensively.
Absolutely. We talked about the offense putting up 42 points on the number 1 defense in the conference. But what people miss, whether it was at Texas Tech or here at home against Utah, is the situations that the defense was able to gift wrap for the offense. Slow start in Texas Tech. Instead of getting 2 touchdowns, held them to 2 field goals. So instead of it being 21-0, it's 13-0. That gives Shedeur that opportunity to rest, relax, get in there, make his thing happen. Same thing happened here at Folsom. Uncharacteristic first throw turnover for Shedeur. Defense held them to 3 points. When they didn't get a field goal out of that, you just sense that the math was still on the side of the home team here at Folsom. So it's going to be interesting to see how our defense can contain that offense.
I think the major thing when you're dealing with momentum and when you're talking about drives getting stalled, a lot of times we have a tendency to say, well, what was Colorado's problem? What did they do wrong or what didn't they do right? We got to give credit to the other coaches. Football is a game of adjustments. Sometimes they take away Travis Hunter. Sometimes they take away your slot receiver. Sometimes they take Webster out the game, or they try the way they defend Jimmy Horn. They bring an extra guy more that you can block. And so coaching matters. Coaching comes into the fray. So what you do is you get on the sideline, you get the videos out, you get the pictures out, and you make adjustments. That's what coaching is. So they stopped you this way this drive. You can't let them stop you that way the next drive. So now you change your route combinations. You change your personnel grouping to get you one more guy at the point of attack in the run game. So Colorado has been out coaching people. Everybody leaves it to, well, I got Shedeur and I got Travis. We just got better players. No, they are making in-game adjustments on both sides of the ball to put themselves in position to win big games.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely agree with that. When you're in the locker room halftime and you see Coach George Hilo and his adjustments and being the right-hand man of Coach Rob Livingston, I don't think that this coaching staff that Coach Prime has put together gets enough pats on the back for what they've accomplished. Of course, with the talent that has been brought in, you got to have players, you got to have dudes, but this coaching staff knows how to adjust, and the proof is in the pudding. When you look at the second half of games this season, this defense has held opponents to 7 points or less.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, haters are gonna hate, but the people that really know football, they know what's going on. The guys that are really in the profession of football and covering football and coaching football and making football decisions, they clearly see what's going on with the coaching staff at the University of Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just that clear as well. And when you look at that now, Coach, you teed that up perfectly for me. How was Coach Prime not in the mentioning? How is he not going to be Coach of the Year with this continued success?
Best story in college football. They close out, especially if they win the Big 12. He's got to be the National Coach of the Year. Everything he has said has come to light. I can tell you this. When I saw the very first spring practice with the team that they had, I was scared for Coach. I was scared for him. We talked about it. Then when all the players started going in the portal, I think the number ended up being 58, something crazy like that. I say, Coach, how are we going to get 58 kids? He said, hey, man, we got it. Don't worry about it. Every step of the way, he has never wavered in what his plan was, what he was doing, and what the strategy was, right? And look at what it is. And I mean, he's been right every step of the way.
Absolutely. He inherited a 1-11 program, takes that up to 4-8, and now sitting here with 8 wins, 2 games left, can very easily get to a 10-win season in his second year, and that would catapult him into an appearance into the Big 12 championship game. Speaking of Big 12 championship game, I had the opportunity to talk to Big 12 commissioner. He was here at Folsom, and he's excited about the future of Big 12 and owes a lot of that and through his own testimony to what is happening here in Colorado, putting a spotlight on the conference.
Commissioner, Big 12 is looking good.
Listen, it's unfolding just the way we said it would. You know, around Media Day in Vegas, we said deepest conference in America. Certain schools will emerge as the season goes on, and the month of November is going to be magical because a lot of different scenarios will play out relative to who's going to show up in Arlington on that first weekend in December. What Colorado is doing is fantastic. It's great for college football, it's great for our conference, and it's keeping us very relevant, and it's obviously developing a great national narrative for us. So thrilled to be here today.
You know, absolutely. When you talk about what's possible with this conference, mathematically a lot of teams are still in it.
A lot of different scenarios. I mean, I didn't look at my numbers yet, but last week 14 out of 16 schools were still in contention for the champ game, which again validates what I've been saying all along and what everyone's been saying about the deepest conference in America with a lot of parity.
Well, we're looking forward to a Big 12 championship in Dallas. After that, what's next for the conference?
Well, listen, we're just getting started. You know, when I think about our conference, we're like a mature startup. When you think about us versus some of the other conferences, we're only 29 years old. We're just getting started. Obviously, we've had 8 new members within the last 2 years, so we're not the best version of ourselves, but we're working towards it. And we're going to break boundaries. We're going to disrupt in a positive way. We're going to continue the momentum that we're building. And, you know, all of our schools, 16 strong, are on board for the future, and our best days are ahead.
Here's the positive disruption.
Positive disruption. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Well, you know, when the Big 12 commissioner shows up to your game, it's official, you know, and so obviously you got to be excited about what's going on in the Big 12. Some great young coaches in the Big 12, some great veteran coaches. You have star power and guys like Coach Sanders. You have star players. You got Shador, you got Travis, you got the guys at Colorado, you got Shiloh. You also have guys like T-Mac at the University of Arizona and some of the things they brought to the table. Noah Fafita. You got good coaches in Lance Leipold. The Big 12 is in a healthy position right now with the additions that they made and the way that the game is going.
Man, I love when you call them roles on the coaches. Nobody knows coaches in college football like a man, Coach Carl Reed. I got to ask you this, Coach, from a global standpoint. When you look at the CFP in its current landscape, addressing the Big 12, the path apparent is the only path, and that's you win the championship, because a lot of the older, more established conferences, you know, they seem to have more than one slot that they're going to be taking up. Saw some interesting news out today from Lane Kiffin out of Ole Miss, who's saying, these conference championship games could hurt you. You could go in there and lose it, and then someone else gets in, or you mess up having your bye. Do you see situationally the conference championship maybe some years down the road not meaning as much or people trying to avoid it?
Yeah, that was going to always be an issue once you went to 12 teams, right? Once you went to 12 teams and put the conference champion as an automatic bid, then you have to start looking at the next best teams. That becomes a matter of opinion and a matter of committee selection. So you could theoretically be in the SEC championship game, the Big Ten championship game, and lose, and it could hurt you.
Man, it's something to think about. And probably one of the solutions that's going to inevitably happen. We fought like cats and dogs to get to a 12-team playoff. Maybe 14, even 16 is the answer.
I think that it'll expand at least one more time because you want to have as many good teams playing at the end as possible. Because what teams are scared of is the bowl opt-outs. You saw what bowl opt-outs did to Florida State a year ago. Mm-hmm. It can completely dismantle and disrail your program. Florida State still hasn't recovered from that. So when you think about it, you got to think about it from that perspective.
That's an excellent point, tying that all together with the opting out the bowl games and where Florida State is now. Speaking of which, where do you see from your crystal ball the future of Florida State?
Well, they're going to make they're making some coordinated changes, obviously, on offense and defense. Coach Norvell announced that. And I know that he has some incredible candidates on both sides of the ball for his coordinated positions. The biggest thing that's going to be is, can they recruit the guys and get the right players in there? Because this is it's still a player's game.
And speaking of recruitment, man, my man, Coach Carl Reed, it's like he bending down and just putting the golf ball on the tee for me. He just setting these next questions up. When you talk about their recruitment phase and what Coach Prime has done, this year, what impact does that have on him recruiting to Colorado, but also the Big 12 being in his spotlight, so to speak, being able to recruit more as well and just uplift the entire conference?
From a Big 12 perspective, you can sell to all of your kids when you play Colorado, you're going to be on national television, so that does help programs because you're going to have one more game on national television that you wouldn't have had otherwise. From Coach Prime's perspective, the recruiting is different when you're winning. The calls that I get now from kids in the transfer portal, from high school kids, everybody wants me to put their tape in front of Coach Prime. Everybody wants me to get them connected with Coach Prime in the University of Colorado. So the players, I think that when the fans see the transfers, when they see some of the high school kids that are going to be signed, it's an unbelievable list. I'm not going to give you no names right now, but stay tuned.
We're going to stay tuned because you're going to stay a part of the big boys, so that information is coming externally and internally. That recruitment is going to be key to success. You do have some high-profile departures from this program, but that's going to open up a wonderful opportunity for other people to come in and have an immediate impact. You look at what has occurred this season. Jordan Seaton, true freshman out there at left tackle. Cash Cleveland, walk-on from IMG, now starting at center. You had Draylon Miller this past game this against Utah, was the number one wide receiver, true freshman in all of college football that weekend. But the knock on Coach Prime is that he doesn't recruit high school players. But if you watch the games, not only are high school players, true freshmen playing, they're making an impact.
Well, people that say he doesn't recruit high school players, they don't know what they're talking about. What he got criticism for is that he doesn't do in-home visits, and you can't look at what he does as a barometer to judge everybody else or what everybody else does as a barometer to judge him, because he's one-on-one. Nobody can do it like him, and nobody is him, and nobody has the resources and things that he has available to him. He's going to be able to replace great players because you have to. That's the way the game is. I remember when I was a young coach, Neely, the first great player that I ever coached, he was leaving, and the great Sonny Vaccaro told me, "Don't worry, young man, there's always another great one coming." And he was right, and so somebody else will step up. You might win a different way. You don't necessarily win the same way. You won't win having a guy that plays every snap on both sides of the ball. You may not win being able for your quarterback going 35 for 40. You find a different way to win, and you maximize what those players can do, and they'll be able to do that at Colorado.
Excellent point. Because, that's one of the knocks as far as not only the haters out there, but the folks who are trying to recruit to their other programs. You either hear that Coach Prime is not going to be here, or that when he loses all this talent, we're going to go right back to the bottom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the facts just don't bear that out in college football. When you build that foundation and do what you have to do pragmatically, it gets pretty sustainable because the laws of attraction come into play, man. People want to be here. And as far as that in-home visit stuff, when he was getting knocks on that, like you just said, Coach Reed, this is Deion Sanders. Like, he is still a special entity, unlike any other. And just imagine the ripple effect negatively if he went to 1 or 2 visits and didn't go to 3, 4, or 5. And so the best way for him to do it is go to none and just invite everybody here to see the Flatirons, this beautiful facility, and all that he has to offer here. And that's been working. I'm sitting in his recruiting rounds right now. And when players come here with their parents and sit in this room, there's about a 92% sign rate.
Well, I'm going to tell you, people don't understand because they don't live that kind of life. The life he lives isn't normal. You like me have been places with him outside of football. And if he came into anybody's neighborhood, you wouldn't be able to move traffic, right? And it just becomes from a security standpoint, from a logistics standpoint, it could become such a nightmare having him out there like that. It's just different, and it's not something that most people can understand. So I understand why they have the opinions about that they do.
Absolutely. I was talking to Troy Aikman, his former teammate. He said, I don't know how it happens or how it happened, but Deion, my former teammate, I've won Super Bowls. Emmett has won Super Bowls. Michael has won Super Bowls. And we can walk around. This guy's more famous now than he was when we played together because he always just takes his acumen to the next level, and it's something beautiful to behold. And they were celebrating what he's accomplished here as a coach because he's a Hall of Famer, man. And when you looked on the sideline this past game, Coach Reed at Folsom Field against Utah, you had Coach Prime and Warren Sapp on the staff. You had Michael Irvin, Ocho Cinco visiting, and it's just Terrell Owens here visiting. You have 5 Hall of Famers on the sideline supporting the program. Where can you find that in college football?
And you telling me you a young ball player and you have access to that, you're going to take advantage of it if you're smart.
Yeah, absolutely you would, because they know how to get to the next level because they've been there and excelled at it. Coach Reed, this has been another kick episode of the Big Boys. You got any parting thoughts out there regarding Kansas or the rest of this season or the college football landscape in general?
Man, I say the same thing every week. When I talk to Coach, when I talk to you, play great defense, protect the football, and the outcome will already be decided.
I love it. Simple keys to success from a proven champion coach himself. Coach, we're going to check back in with you next week on the Big Boys after we go to Kansas to take care of business. That week is going to be a shorter week because we play on a Friday coming off of some travel. So we got Oklahoma State coming in here on Black Friday, and that'll be Friday morning from Folsom Field. So 2 interesting games left and then the Big 12 championship. Y'all stay tuned to the Pregame Show Network. Coach Carl Reed, Uncle Neely, the Big Boys.